Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to be here. In this episode we will talk about another milestone in the Italian grappa industry, the Nardini Distillery. Surely many of you have already heard of it, and many will discover it on this journey. However, I would also like to dedicate a few minutes to the town of Bassano del Grappa where the distillery is located. So let's start our adventure from the castle of the Ezzolini family, also called the Upper Castle. Going back in time, the first written documentation about the existence of Bassano dates back to 998, with a document certifying the existence of the Church of Santa Maria, located not far from the bank of the Brenta River. But the historical period that interests us concerns only the second half of the 12th century when the Bishop of Vicenza, to whom the castle or the Church of Santa Maria belonged, donated the castle to Ezzolo, the progenitor of the powerful Ezzolini family. The church in particular was built on the highest hill along with fortified structures built for defensive purposes and as a refuge for people, goods, and provisions. The oldest structures of the castle still visible, dating back to the 12th and 13th centuries, include the lower parts of towers and walls identifiable by the stone texture of the Brenta River, characterized by limestone and bricks. During the 13th century, a new enclosing wall was built up to the north pentagonal tower, and the guardhouse is located at the entrance of the path along the walls of the castle of Bassano del Grappa. The entire complex has been restored, and currently, the interior spaces are used for temporary exhibitions, but it also boasts the presence of some unique pieces, such as the reproduction of the so-called Sword of Saint Maurice, preserved at the Royal Armoury in Turin and used for over 400 years in the royal investiture of the Holy Roman Empire. If you visit Bassano, you can't miss the Ponte Vecchio and stop for a mezzo e mezzo. A typical aperitif of the city, at the historic Nardini Distillery, whose ancient premises have hosted taverns and inns since the 1200s. Few know that the Nardini family originated from Val di Cembra in Trentino, and that in the second half of the 1700s, during a commercial trip along the Brenta River, they were forced to stop in Bassano, a town with an ancient winemaking tradition where it was a widespread practice to distill the pomace to derive a source of income and sustenance. At the time, the distillers moved from house to house, with a mobile still, to distill the pomace derived from wine production for third parties. Bartolo Nardini took up this trade, so during his forced stay in Bassano, Bartolo Nardini fell in love with the place and in 1779, decided to buy the Osteria del Ponte to install his own stills for the distillation of grappa, thus founding his distillery near the Ponte Vecchio, which connects the two banks of the city of Bassano del Grappa, built by Andrea Palladio, a great Italian architect. Now, for the first time, it was no longer the distiller, with his mobile still, who went to the farmers to distill but the farmers themselves who brought the pomace to him for the production of grappa. Bartolo called his grappa, aquavit di Venixia, in the Latin way without the sea, playing on the etymology that sometimes wants it to be aqua di vita, and other times as aqua della vite, water of the vine. Nardini is today the oldest still operating distillery in Italy. In 1797, the French, considering grappa to be one of the most important symbols of the region, emptied the large copper jars that contained Nardini's grappa during the campaign of Italy led by Napoleon Bonaparte. Subsequently, Nardini's grappa came to be considered a valuable element for the Veneto region during the exchange between Austria and France of the Veneto and Lombardy regions. In 1860, the founder's nephew Bartolo Nardini modernized the typical direct fire distillation by introducing steam distillation, which marked the beginning of modern distillation in Italy and conferred the same quality on all the liters of Nardini's grappa produced. Following this change in strategy, Nardini's grappa expanded and acquired a good reputation. In 1879, the company participated in the General Italian Exhibition at Turin, where it won the silver medal. In 1910, the new generation of Nardini family members, Bartolo, Orazio, and Mario, made an important innovation: the reserve grappa, aged in oak barrels like cognac, resulting in the creation of Nardini Reserve Grappa. The beginning of the 20th century was a particularly challenging period for the Nardini family when the company was damaged by bombings and had to be rebuilt. Between the two world wars, Nardini's grappa focused on producing high-quality grappa and resumed its expansion. However, in 1944, the distillery was destroyed again by Allied bombings, and despite this, the family rebuilt it once more. The difficulties faced by the company throughout its history have been many, including the destruction caused by the bombings of the Second World War, where a large part of the equipment and grappa reserves were lost, also the increasingly fierce competition. Nevertheless, Nardini's Grappery has been able to overcome these challenges and grow, becoming one of the most important and respected grappa producers in Italy. The years from 1950 to 2000 contributed to a strong economic growth, thanks also to the post-war economic boom. Nardini Distillery expanded internationally, exporting grappa to Europe and the United States. In 1957, the company launched Acqua di Cedro, a liqueur based on citron, which became a great success. In 1998, Nardini Distillery acquired another historic grappa distillery, Jacopo Poli Distillery, which represented an important turning point for the company, allowing it to consolidate its position as a producer of high-quality spirits and to expand its product range to meet the needs of the most demanding customers. The Nardini family preserved the artisanal tradition of Jacopo Poli Distillery and continued to produce its premium spirits, but with the addition of the distillation and production techniques that Nardini Distillery developed during its over 2 centuries of history. The distillery, which is already worth a visit for the charm that emanates from every still and from the bullet holes on the walls of the many battles it has witnessed, hides a secret. The rooms of the ancient inn with an attached cellar, now visitable for private tastings by appointment only, have received visits from Queen Elizabeth, Ernest Hemingway, who discovered grappa there, mentioning it in Farewell to Arms, and Gabriele D'Annunzio, great enthusiasts of this beverage. Downstairs, in addition to an unprecedented perspective of the Bassano Bridge from its foundations, you can still admire the tunnel through which rafters arrived from the Brenta River to drink grappa, and the ancient cellar where very old bottles of grappa and spirits are kept. Over the years, Nardini Distillery continued to grow and expand, with the Nardini family still actively involved in its management, representing a successful example of family entrepreneurship. The passion and love for grappa that they passed down from generation to generation allowed the Nardini family to create one of the most appreciated distillate brands in the world. In 2003, the Grappa Museum was inaugurated at the distillery's headquarters in Bassano del Grappa. In 2012, Nardini Distillery opened a new location in Valdagno, dedicated to the production of liqueurs and bitters. In 2019, Nardini Distillery celebrated its 240th anniversary. The Nardini Distillery has also received recognition for its architecture and the design of its tasting rooms, such as the Architizer A+ Awards for its showroom in Bassano del Grappa. To celebrate its 225 years of activity, architect Massimiliano Fuxas, in agreement with the Nardini family, created a new auditorium and a new research space, the Nardini Bubbles. For this environment, the architect thought of 2 large elliptical spaces in glass and steel, arranged at different heights and overhanging a body of water. The laboratory is located inside the lower bubble, while an auditorium is located underground in the park, below the water. This architecture, in a medieval city like Bassano, represented a real challenge, that of being able to integrate futuristic forms into a landscape that retains a strong historical identity. Today, it can be said that the challenge has been won. Bortolo Nardini offers the possibility of guided tours by appointment through the distillery's premises, taking visitors on a journey into the world of grappa. The distillery is one of the supporting members of the Historic Venues of Italy Association, which gathers the oldest venues that have written a page in the history of Italy, and of the Henochians, the association that recognizes its members as families that have remained at the head of their company for over 200 years. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's all for today. Thank you for your attention and don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button and write us in the comments what you think of our videos.